Will and Dibby.
On 95.7 The Game.
All right, Howard Beck expected in just moments, and part of me hates this, part of me loves this.
Hate it or love it, 50 Cent.
Well, I mean, they're still sweeping up the confetti off of Market Street right now. And but we're already going to be like, so, Looney's a free agent, GP2, Otto, Jordan Poole next year, Andrew Wiggins.
Bob Myers on the hot seat. That's it, I said
right?
it.
Right?
Sorry, Bob. The honeymoon's over.
What is the day that we can start doing Warrior off-season? Because today is the Warriors off-season.
Thursday is the draft, and they have 3 picks. So I think we can start to look at, and also we can get into the gambling angle because there could be, Banchero now is a possible number 1 overall. I've said all along I think he's the best player in the draft. Many experts had him at 3. Now the chatter is he could go 2 or even 1. Chet Holmgren, the 7-1 kid out of Gonzaga, is the one sliding out of the top 2.
I mean, I know, I'm just going to be straight with the audience.
Update.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know a damn thing about any of these players that are going to, certainly not the ones that will be available when the Warriors pick. And as a fan, I also have to just be real. I couldn't care less what they do later this week.
How dare you?
I could not care less.
Did I mention Bob Myers on the hot seat yet?
It already feels...
Okay.
First of all, they got no roster spots.
True.
It already feels like, and I don't know if the future core is going to work or not. There's no way to know that yet, but it feels like they've already got it. They've already got their 20, their 19 and 20 and 21-year-olds.
Moody, Kuminga, Poole, Wiseman.
Yeah, like they've already got their guys. What are you going to do? Go get more guys? How many guys are you going to fit? There's no roster spots.
Our draft coverage should be brought to you by the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk, by the way, because these guys are going to get to know the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk pretty well.
And
take that to sales.
They're also going to
California sun.
I mean, they're going to be laying on the beach because I know they're not going to be playing basketball for the Golden State Warriors anytime soon. So, look, I don't know. I don't know how to dive into that, and I don't know what the right day is to do it. But I do know that there was one thing that caught my eye over the weekend with regard to the Warriors' future. And I'll mention that here in just a second. I want to remind you, it's all sponsored by Fremont Bank, full-service banking, no compromises, and Willard and Dibs also brought to you by Caltrans Stormwater. So there was this piece that went through all of the Warriors who are not signed up for next year, and actually even a couple who are. Because we hear so much about Wiggins and Poole, and I think sometimes people go, yeah, what are they going to do? Well, they're going to play for the Warriors next year because they're under contract.
Right.
So those guys are not free agents. The free agents are Looney, GP2, Otto, and Andre. And then obviously the very bit players. But am I missing anyone? That's the free agency, right?
Yep.
Okay. Looney's the big player here. The other guys are one-year deals.
Is Bielitsa also a free
thank
agent?
you. I knew I was forgetting somebody.
No.
Okay.
And so JTA, I think, is...
right. But you get down to the end of the bench on this one. Chioza, guys like that.
Right.
So that's free agency. But there was one thing with Wiggins and Poole that caught my eye. Because every player, the one-year guys and Wiggins, were like, I'm dying to still be here. And I know guys always say that. Otto Porter was on our airways. JD was on the bus. Did you hear this part? JD got on the bus.
He did?
He got on the bus. Gus.
I saw JD on the route, and JD was locking in on doing what he does, which is great reportage. And actually, he and I had a quick in-queue chat with Spadoni because he was talking back to Spadoni, and I said, good luck, JD, because these players, they're up on top of the bus, and I didn't know how many of them would get out and actually mingle, and turned out just about all of them did.
Yeah, they got off the bus, and then when they got back on the bus, they invited JD on the bus, so JD went up on the double-decker bus, and he was talking to Clay, and he was talking to Otto Porter Jr., and he got Otto on with Steiny and Goo and just did the interview right there with him and asked the obvious question, and Otto goes, look, there's things that are going to be out of my control, but damn it, I made the right choice, and I really, really want to be back.
Yeah.
You can tell when someone's being genuine on that. Well, there's always the stock answer when someone's like, I don't want to answer that question. And it doesn't mean I want to leave. It just means I don't want to answer that question. And Jordan Poole was the one who gave that answer. We're in the middle of this whole championship thing, and I just haven't even had time to think about it. And it's like, you don't need time to think about it. All you got to do is tell me what you want, right?
What you really, really want.
Have you looked at the menu? unless it's the Cheesecake Factory menu, you should be able to tell me within a few minutes, what do you want? Or you can at least whittle it down to about 2 or 3 things that jump off the menu at you.
But sometimes it's like market pricing, and that's what this is, where I want the cracked crab. How much is it? You have to ask, and that's where he is. He's not just ordering off the kids' menu anymore, babe.
Well, but the thing is with Jordan, there's 2 aspects. Everyone else has got 1. You want to be here? Yes or no? Who wouldn't say yes? It's basketball heaven. Okay, so check there. But there's a second aspect to Jordan. Do you want this role? If you're Jordan Poole and you're 22 years old and you're thinking, okay, we saw this year some of what I can do on an NBA basketball court. It wasn't 100% consistent yet. That makes sense. A, I'm 22, and B, I'm not given the minutes and the rope that others are given to work myself into my game. And you know that Jordan, certainly with that kind of confidence, is thinking, I can be the centerpiece of an NBA team. I can definitely be a starter. I'm somebody who could average 25 a game if I'm given the room. Is he ever going to have the room? There's Steph, there's Clay. Steph is just coming up on a 35th birthday, I think later this year or in season next year.
March.
Okay? So they're not leaving that soon. They're not staying for that much longer, but they're not leaving in the next year or 2, and that's when Jordan's going to have to figure it out. So I'm circling Jordan. Jordan's the one, for me, that when you look at the next year plus of Warrior basketball, that's the question mark. Even if they show up with the bag, he may still say no.
Well, he has no say in the matter.
Well, he does a little bit. I know he'll be a restricted free agent.
Right.
But as Ray even pointed out, if someone offers him something that's just ridiculous,
absurd, yeah.
I mean, how much luxury tax? Do you really want to, with luxury tax and contract, do you really want to spend over $100 million a year on Jordan?
Depends on how much you believe in.
Because it could get to that.
Well, Joe Lacob has talked all along about 2 timelines, and Jordan Poole is a big part of the second timeline, which is 5 years from now. And Joe Lacob actually said earlier this week he sees them being competitive through the end of the decade, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 8 more seasons, Mark, of being competitive, which means in 8 years, Jordan Poole is 31, Moody's 28, Looney's 34, Kuminga's 27, Wiseman's 29. If you really believe in your younger core, and I know Kevon feels like an older player, but he's only 26.
Right.
So your core at that point would be in the peak of their years. So if Jordan Poole is someone you believe in, you're going to give him a bag. How big is the bag? And I think the interesting thing for me with Jordan Poole is what you're describing, because Steph Curry is signed through 2026, which means 4 more years of Steph. He's not walking away from $59 million in 2025-26, and you're still going to play Steph Curry as many minutes as he wants because he's good for business and the box office. So, does Jordan Poole, are you interested in me time, PT, somewhere else, or can you play this role for another, and it might be 3 or 4 years of 25 to 28 minutes a night.
Right. So very much looking forward to getting Howard Beck's perspective on this. The great Howard Beck, senior writer, Sports Illustrated, crossover pod, SiriusXM, NBA, and one of our good friends on with Willard and Dibs here, 95.7 The Game. Hey, Howard, what's going on, man?
Hey, guys. Good afternoon.
Great afternoon. Good morning here. But, yeah, appreciate you hopping on at this time and would love your perspective on what we're hashing out here. All of the Warriors say they want to stay. The one who wouldn't quite answer the question is Jordan Poole, which we get. And so I'm very curious your thoughts on both what you see in him and situations like this in the past, because it's not just about money with Jordan. I don't know if the role he may want exists with the Warriors. So what do you think is going to happen there?
I wouldn't even try to predict. Listen, we know how this goes in the NBA. It's never as simple and straightforward as you got a great team, everybody's feeling great, you win a championship, everyone wants to stay together, management says all the right things, players usually typically say all the right things. As you point out, he may have hedged a little, but it comes down to so many different factors, and it's never just money, it's never just winning, it's never just location, it's never that straightforward. And so obviously, I'm sure everybody in your listenership wants to see Jordan Poole back. I'm sure everybody in the organization wants to see Jordan Poole back. If somebody offers him a really nice salary and to be, say, their starting point guard, or just a starter period, I don't know if that's going to happen. I haven't surveyed the landscape on this, but could he go somewhere else? Just seeing it as an opportunity to grow. That's what we've seen in various forms over the years, where guys sometimes strike out on their own just because it gives them a different context to grow career-wise. And you can't begrudge anybody that if that's what they choose. The other piece here is that as much as Joe Lacob and that ownership group have been really willing to spend into the hundreds of millions and into luxury tax and taken on all of that burden, because winning is the most important thing, and they should absolutely be appreciated for that, praised for that in the Bay Area for sure. Maybe not so much in other markets where they don't appreciate having to try to keep up. But there's a limit for everybody. At some point they might say no. At some point, somebody, one contract, one player is going to come along where they're going to say, you know what, we'll find another version of this guy at a lesser price. That happens too, even for the teams that are the most willing to spend. Again, not predicting that's going to happen. We don't know, but these are the things you got to keep an eye on. It's never as simple and straightforward as just keep it all together.
Yeah, and they're already on the books, Howard, not next year, but the year after, for $144 million as we sit right now, and that's without Andrew Wiggins potentially being back or a Jordan Poole new extension. So they're already leveraged a couple years down the road. By the way, Poole did start 51 games this year and averaged 30 minutes a game. So looking at this roster, Steph Curry here 4 more years. Do you see that Jordan Poole's going to have to wait that long to really blossom into a starter if he stays?
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, he started a bunch of games because Clay was out, but, Clay's going to come into next season healthy, presumably, and presumably the shooting guard, unless things shift around and maybe they're starting Poole and Curry in the backcourt and Clay at the 3. I don't think that's where this is going. He's probably a sixth man for the foreseeable future, and maybe that's where things turn, right? Maybe it is that somebody else says, no, we want you as a full-time starter. He had a really good season, right? And he had some really nice moments in the playoffs. He also had some moments of very much struggling in the playoffs. So if I'm the GM of a rival team and I'm trying to pick off, one of the Warriors' younger players, and I'm looking at Jordan Poole, I'm probably not necessarily casting him as, big salaried starter who's going to come anchor my team. I don't think he profiles as that yet, but he is still evolving. And if you're a young team that's looking for another piece and a guy with championship experience, and you think, you know what, this is somebody who we think we can grow with, it's possible. But I don't know. I don't think that's where things are right now. And look, the good news is there aren't that many teams with a ton of cap room. The ones that do have cap room are the teams that are looking, to rebuild for the most part and are young and trying to figure out their way, up the ranks. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens on July 1.
Howard Beck is with us, Sports Illustrated on 95.7 The Game, talking out all things hoops after the Warriors championship parade. Howard, from a league perspective, a national perspective, how are things different now with Andrew Wiggins?
Context. Everybody will look at this and say we see a different Andrew Wiggins now than we did a year ago, certainly 2 to 3 years ago, 5 years ago. He's the same guy who got drafted number 1 overall for all these tools that we just saw being used to their fullest, right? And the question over the last several years was, would he ever be able to use all those tools to the fullest? Was he going to figure it out? And part of this is figuring it out. Part of this is being with I think it's just a better team, better environment. But a lot of it has to do with, not having to carry an entire franchise. It's a lot different when you are sitting there as a secondary option, a third option, fourth option on a given night, where you've got a specific job. Go defend the other team's best perimeter scorer or the best wing player, and fill in the gaps. and, get to the rack when you can. It's not quite as straightforward as all that, but I just think that there's a comfort level clearly there in playing off of stars and playing off of a veteran cast and not having everything on his shoulders that really helped bring out the best in him. And even as we say that, think about the number of times where you ask teammates over the course of the season after a big game by Wiggins, hey guys, what do you think of Wiggins tonight? And then they're just kind of joking about like, yeah, that's what we keep telling him we want to see every night because he's capable of it. But you ride that roller coaster with some of these peaks and valleys, which is what the Timberwolves did for years. And for them, it was very frustrating because they had nobody else to rely on. So, I mean, I still look. There's probably the good news is he's just entering his prime, and there's probably still more growth, more evolution in his game to happen. And he's in the exact right place for that. And look, at this point, you can't say anything but that the Warriors should do everything possible to extend him and keep him as part of the core going forward.
33.6 next year, and then he is a free agent. Kevon Looney can get out on the market in this next season. Is his value offset with other teams based on the fact that he just happens to fit perfectly with what the Warriors do? Or can another team out there see in Kevon a guy who they can really help and might pay him 8 figures a year?
Yeah, I mean, this always happens. Somebody comes off of a championship and, the role players, I'm trying to think of the obvious examples. There probably are some that are just eluding me at the moment, but it happens, right? And everybody looks that much better. Everybody's $5 million better after they're part of a championship team, even if they were the 4th, 5th, or 7th guy. So it can happen. I think some of it's context and who he's playing with. We're also in an era where, unless you have Joel Embiid or Jokic or maybe Rudy Gobert, maybe Towns, most teams are going to go with, centers who they're not going to pay a lot to because you don't want to overinvest in that position. It's not the most critical position in this era of the NBA. But you do want guys who can protect the rim a bit, rebound a lot, and set good screens. And Looney's not necessarily like the biggest shot blocker in the world, but, he gives you a lot of what you want from a center. Is there, enough demand right now that pushes his market value up to an unreasonable level for the Warriors? Again, you cannot predict the NBA market most years. These things tend to take on a life of their own. And I'm sure there are teams with interest in him. I have no doubt about that. But whether or not that comes to a breaking point for the Warriors in their payroll, again, only Joe Lacob knows that for sure.
Howard, how would you handicap the West next year in terms of what we know now? How would you handicap it with regard to, who might challenge the Warriors the most?
The obvious answer, Denver's going to get players back, and if you presume a healthy Jamal Murray and a healthy Michael Porter Jr., and look, I don't think you can definitely presume those things, but that's a team with a 2-time MVP and, been on the rise for a couple of years now and is, I think, ready to break through. We'll see what happens with the Suns and, how much longer can Chris Paul do this? Is DeAndre Ayton staying or going? If he goes, is it a sign and trade, and who do they get back for him? Does Memphis have another gear to get to just based on evolution alone because they're such a young team? A young team can have a breakthrough and then backslide. They don't always. It's not always linear, right? But they're going to be at least in the mix. The Mavericks still need a second star. They're going to get Christian Wood in that trade that's been reported, but obviously he's not, the complementary star that you're looking for. He's just a nice piece to kind of balance them out up front a little bit. But, Luka still needs a co-star if that team is going to be a true contender. So I still think of the Mavericks as kind of a second-tier team. But the Nuggets, the Suns, potentially the Grizzlies again, and then the Clippers getting Kawhi Leonard back. And after as long as he's been out, I don't pencil them in immediately at the top of the West. We got to see if Kawhi Leonard is still Kawhi Leonard after all this time. But Kawhi and Paul George and a really smart front office and a team that always finds some useful pieces, the Clippers will be right in there. And so, if we're just going to project forward and project health and everything else, it might actually be the Clippers who become, jumping from ninth last season to being the biggest threat. Because Paul George and Kawhi Leonard together are an incredible 1-2 punch, and that team defends.
Howard, beautiful stuff. Love having you as we start to already move our way into the offseason. Thanks for doing it, my friend.
Always a pleasure, fellas. Thank you.
Okay, there it is. Howard Beck, Sports Illustrated. As we're sitting here having this conversation about Jordan Poole's future, we get multiple texts on the Xfinity mobile text line, by the way. And thank you for connecting there. That's our number as well if you want to call in and give us your thoughts on the parade, having been out there, your experience. We haven't said good morning yet to Twitch and YouTube and your comments there. But we got a bunch of texts of people saying, trade Poole. Trade Jordan Poole now before this sort of gets to that point where you're financially stuck. And I don't know if it will. But again, I just think Jordan's the only one where there's two questions. It's not just money and desire to stay, which is that's the question for Wiggins and Otto Porter and
for all these
GP2
guys.
and all of it. For Jordan, it's also the role. It's how much space is there to shine. And it's a fair question from his standpoint, by the way.
It is, but if you have an organization that understands where you are and what is going to happen, I think you can properly let him know what his role will be, and that is you're a part of this fabric. And if you think about the amount of time there is in an NBA season, 48 minutes a game times 82 games times 5 guys on the floor, it's 20,000 minutes. Is the amount of playing time that's available. And if you look at Jordan Poole this year, Mark, and I know Howard made a great point, a lot of this happened when Clay was out. Jordan Poole started 51 games, and he averaged 30 minutes a night. So if you could go to Jordan Poole and say, look, 82 games, you're going to start 50 to 60 games. You're going to get at least 30 minutes a night, because what we're going to see in this upcoming year, I guarantee you, is a ton of load management, because the Warriors realize it's about the 16 in the spring. It's not about the 82 throughout the course of the year. So you're going to have Steph miss 15 to 20. Clay's going to miss 15 to 20. Draymond's going to miss 20 to 30. And that's going to be the way it goes. So, Jordan, you're going to get your burn. You're going to get your run. Here's this bag, and it's a big bag. Love to have you.
But that's regular season burn, and you're absolutely right. Like, that's an under-discussed point of the Warriors this year. Oof, good year for load management. I mean, the Warriors...
It's a win.
They never... Well, it's not for the league. It's bad
for load management.
Yeah, load management crushed the league this year when you look at the Warriors, who never played together at all until the playoffs.
Well, Draymond played those 7 seconds in Clay's debut.
Remember that? That was awesome. So
committed a reckless foul, by the way.
You know, I think that we saw this with Kelly Oubre, and I'm sorry to bring his name up today, but to a lot of guys, and I don't know if Jordan's one of them, starting matters. It's just an emotional thing.
It's an ego thing.
Right. I agree with what you're saying. There are 30 minutes for you. There might even be finishing minutes with you. But there is something for a lot of these guys. There's something to be said for being in that opening tunnel and have your name ripped through by some huge big voice PA announcers, right? From Michigan.
Totally.
You don't get that if you're Jordan Poole, and that might matter to him.
It might, but I think what matters and what should matter more, and again, I can't get inside of the skull of Jordan Poole, but if you rank what matters, if I'm Jordan Poole, first and foremost, what matters is bag alert, major bag alert. Second is the opportunity to win. Because yesterday, as much fun as we had, how much fun did they have after a grind that included 82 regular season and 16 tough playoff victories? Gary Payton II, that was probably his favorite day of his entire life. Man. And I can't get inside the head of GP2. Shout out tattoos. Yesterday was a win for the tattoo artists everywhere.
Huge.
But I don't know if he has much real estate remaining.
Not a lot.
For the possible tats. But here's games played. The top 7 in order. Kevon Looney, Jordan Poole, Andrew Wiggins, JTA, GP2, Bielitsa, and Kuminga. If that doesn't reek of load management, next up is Steph Curry at 64. So he missed 18 games. And, Moses Moody, Draymond Green missed 36 games. So if you're Jordan Poole, you pull him aside, you're going to get burned. Your time is going to come. Shout out Led Zeppelin. Here's a $140 million extension. Just be our 6th man for a while, won't you?
Yes, that is the pitch.
Won't you, Jordan?
But
please.
Will he say sold?
140 million over 5.
It's more than, look, they're not going to have to worry about money. He's not going to have to worry about money in his life.
I give you 141.
You know what I mean? Right.
And
I mean, you're doing the Live Golf Tour thing right now. It just come on, money. And there are guys who are going to be like, no, that doesn't fit what I want to do with my career. So, Laura Britt, we'll get in on this conversation and also just what her experience, what all of our experiences were at the parade. Laura can certainly jump in on 49ers and Giants as well. So we look forward to that conversation and your phone calls. Coming up next, it's Willard and Dibs on 95.7 The Game.